You've heard the expression, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, sometimes those details, the small things can be very important. But what about when we overlook the big things? And today, what we're dealing with is something often overlooked, and believe me, it's big.
God's love, elevating, energizing, empowering. Miracles happen when you know that you are loved. Peter Youngren has communicated God's love with millions from every religion and culture. Get ready for your ultimate life because you are loved.
An awakening is what our country needs. Maybe it's what we all need as individuals. And I'm going to continue talking about that today. Something that God has shown me. I'm not the first one He showed it to, but He's shown it to me as well. And it's frightening how many people who go to church, faithful, they haven't seen it. But I'm going to help you to see it this week, starting today. And but in all of that, it's important stuff, it's big stuff. Whatever's going on in your life is big to God. Oh, you know, Jesus was doing the biggest thing you can imagine. He was redeeming the world. I can't think of a bigger project. On His way to the cross, to Golgotha. But He still had time to reach out and touch a needy person. Because to God, whatever you are facing is always big. So that's why our prayer center is open. You can call and send us your prayer request. Go online, leave your prayer request there. We want to pray and believe God with you. Also remember, we are offering this teaching for the sake of your pastor, for the sake of your own life and your city. Get this teaching, Awakening. Why, who, what, where, when. It's a crucial teaching. But right now, let's get to today's topic. Now, the word awakening implies that someone, maybe me, or maybe us, are asleep in some area. And therefore, we need to be awakened. Maybe we are living oblivious to a situation. Maybe there is something, we have a blind spot that we don't see ourselves. So that's why I say awakening. And I also realize as I'm speaking this message to our church, but I'm speaking, and why am I televising it? Why are we recording? Why are we coming to you on television? Because I realize that there are thousands of churches across our country just like our church. And it's no different. And I'm going to continue in that vein because I do believe that our country and that the church by and large worldwide needs to have an awakening. I believe we have come into a blind spot, living in a bubble in our way. I talked about why I am uncomfortable to bring non-believers to church. And some of you may agree, some may disagree with my assessment, but I told you, went through in great detail why I'm uncomfortable. Because I feel some of our expressions are not truthful. And we are saying in things that are not true. And I want in my life, I'm too old to mess around with this, whatever's true about me on Sunday is also true on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm not one persona in church on Sunday, looking towards heaven with hands raised, looking holy, grimacing, oh God, come and touch me. If I don't do that on Monday, I'm not going to do it on Sunday. Because I am who I am. And I'm not ashamed of it. I have Christ living in me. And I'm done with all that. And I am speaking unfiltered. I am telling you what I think and what I see in the scripture, and you may see something different. God bless you. I'm not opposed to that, and that's entirely fine. But I do think we need an awakening. So my text for this teaching is Acts chapter 10 and verse 28, where it says, God has shown me that I should not call any person common or unclean. The person saying this is Simon Peter, and he is speaking of a direct revelation that he received from God. This revelation, as I said, I've looked at it several times, even on television, referred to it several times, but it's such a big revelation. It is the biggest story in the entire New Testament. The story of when God showed this to Simon Peter is bigger, more verses allotted to it than Jesus' birth in Bethlehem, more verses allotted to it than the day of Pentecost. So it is a story that we could look into a few times because of the magnitude of the story. It is found in Acts chapter 10 and Acts chapter 11 and covers a total of 66 verses. You know, there are many stories in the Bible that we hear preached a lot about the woman who touched the hem of his garment and many others. That might be 5 or 6 verses. So certainly, if something is allotted 66 verses, it must have some importance. It should be something we pay attention to. And in those 66 verses, the story is told 3 times. So it's repeated this 3 times so that it really settle in. And so this story is, let me tell you the story so we don't have to read every one of the 66 verses. That might be a little bit much, but you can check out what I'm reading. The story basically begins in a city called Caesarea, which is about a day and a half's journey by horseback or by donkey from Jaffa, where Simon Peter was. So in Caesarea, there is an Italian man by the name of Cornelius. He receives a vision. An angel of the Lord comes to him and says, because he is wanting to know the Lord, he's a God-fearing man, but he's not born again. He's not saved. So it's possible to be God-fearing. He's a praying man, in fact. He's a praying person. See, some of us would automatically think, well, if somebody's a praying person, that they must be saved. Somebody's a God-fearing person, they must be saved. No. This man is a praying man. And he's a God-fearing man, but he doesn't know the Lord. So that's why it's so important you must be born again. We often today, and this is one of the reasons we need an awakening, we think as soon as someone just says something about God or says something spiritual or quotes the Bible, well, Cornelius was such a person. He was well versed in Scripture, but he had not received the new life. So the angel comes to him and says, I want you to send your messengers, 2 of your employees. He was a military man, so 2 soldiers, we could say. Send them down to Jaffa. Go to such and such a place, and you will find Simon Peter there, and he's praying, and tell him to come, and he will tell you how to receive salvation. Now, you can say, we could have said, well, dear Mr. Cornelius, dear Mr. Italian man, Cornelius Maximus, I think, why don't you ask the angel? Since you're here, angel, let's save us the trouble, and you tell me the way of salvation. But the angel doesn't do that. So again, God works through people to communicate the message of salvation. Because that's very important, because we live in a day and age where many people pay lip service to that, but they don't actually believe that. They keep in their prayer life, you say, oh, God, shake our country, or God, reach the people, God, do this and God, do that. Many charismatic, spirit-filled believers do not understand that God is not going to answer your prayer about shaking any country or city, because God works through people. So the angel points out to Cornelius, if you want to know the way of salvation, you have to get to somebody who knows that way, and that man is an hour and a day and a half journey from here. Go get him. And so they set out. So we have a day and a half here going. And so then what happens? Simon Peter in Jaffa is oblivious to what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on, but Simon Peter is stuck. That's right. He is stuck. He needs a shakeup. Imagine that, the mighty man of God, Simon Peter, who had walked on the water, whose shadow fell on the sick, and they rose up and were healed. The mighty man of God who preached on the day of Pentecost, he was stuck. Stuck in what? In his own religious bigotry and tradition. Why am I talking about an awakening? I believe, you can discern that by the Spirit of God, I believe the Lord has shown me that the church worldwide is stuck. We're stuck in our tradition, in our bigotry, in our self-centeredness, in our me-centered religion. We're stuck. So don't feel too bad, because this happened to the head man in the church, Simon Peter. He was stuck. And he had a pretty good credential. He had walked with Jesus for 3 years. So just because you've seen miracles, or God healed you from cancer, or because you prayed for someone, or your shadow fell on somebody who is sick and they got healed, doesn't mean you aren't stuck. You could be stuck. And here the head man of the church is stuck. He is stuck in prejudice. So Jesus knows that he's going to get this invitation in a day and a half. And he knows that Simon Peter is so stuck that he's not going to go to Cornelius' house, because Cornelius is an Italian. And the whole context of Simon Peter was he was a Jewish man. He was among Jews, and so he would know when he got to Cornelius' house, they're going to offer him some food at the door. They're going to offer him some salami and kielbasa and suprasat from Calabresa, and they're going to offer him some espresso coffee with that, and they're going to offer all kinds of pepperoni and all kinds of things, and they're about going to have shrimp hors d'oeuvres, and they're going to have shrimp cocktail and lobster tail. And so all that temptation is going to come to Simon Peter, and being stuck, he can't do that. So he can't go there. So Jesus knows he has to shake him up. He has to give him a shock treatment. Well, I'm talking about a shake-up here. Someone who is stuck in his tradition, in a cobweb of thoughts. Now, when I talk about Christianity in churches, I want to say I'm not an expert in every church, and I say I have a lot of Roman Catholic friends, but I don't know that much about the Roman Catholic Church. I don't know much about the Greek Orthodox Church or the Russian Orthodox Church. I'm primarily talking to the part of the church that I feel like I know quite a bit about, namely the evangelical and charismatic churches. And secondly, I'm talking to those, and there are many of you, millions in North America alone, tens of millions, who have walked away from an evangelical or charismatic church. You just don't feel it relates to you anymore. You don't feel it speaks to you. You may feel it's hypocritical. I'm talking to you. That's why I'm believing for a shake-up. We need to change. We need to shake up. Now, I don't know about those other churches. I'm not saying anything good or bad or anything in between. I don't know. But I'm talking about what I know. And I hope you'll get the whole teaching, the awakening. You see it on the screen there, because it really has a pertinent message. But I'm not going to say any more than that. Our Grace Prayer Center is open, and order that material. And then let's get back to, as I continue to share on what happened in this shakeup of the great Simon Peter. So they're coming close now, a day and a half later. Peter went up to the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. In other words, you can be a praying man and be stuck. You can be praying daily every morning, and you're so proud about, oh, I'm a praying person, I'm praying. You can be stuck. I wonder what he was praying, but he was praying something. Then, after prayer, it says, he became very hungry. So he must have been praying hard, you know. He became very hungry, and he wanted to eat. That's what most people do. Christians go to church, and then they go out to eat. And while they made ready the food, Simon Peter, fell into a trance. That might be helpful for some people, to fall into a trance, whatever it takes to shake you up. And he saw heaven opened, and an object like a great sheet bound at the 4 corners, descending to him and let down to the earth. In it were all kinds of 4-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, creeping things, and birds of the air. And a voice came to him, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." Yeah. So Jesus is not a vegan, but there's nothing wrong being a vegan. I was one for a while. He says, kill and eat. But Peter said, "Not so, Lord." That's very interesting. See how stuck he is? He knows it's the Lord speaking to him. He knows this is the voice of Jesus speaking to me. Otherwise, he wouldn't say Lord. But he said, no, Lord. No. And then he says, For I have never eaten anything common or unclean. He says, Lord, you don't understand. I am a holy person. I'm a member of the Evangelical Confederation of Churches. I'm respected in my religion. You understand, God, I have friends and associates, and I have never done that. You know, what are they going to think about me? Well, how will I look? He's holier than Jesus here. And a voice spoke to him again the second time. Some people are very thick-headed. This is a beautiful story. Here's the head guy of the church. He's the one who preached on the day of Pentecost. He's thick-headed. He needs to be hit in the head over and over and over again. We need a baseball bat. We need a shock treatment here. So a second time said to him, what God has cleansed, do not call common. This was done 3 times. 3 times the same vision. He sees a sheet, and there's 4 corners, and in the sheet are all kinds of unkosher, non-kosher animals. So there would have been pythons in there, snails, lobsters, maybe alligators, shrimp. Oh, we love our shrimp. Shrimp would have been there. Pigs, above all, pigs would have been in the sheet. Pigs, oink, oink. It would have been oink, oink all over that. And they all, they're peeking down at Peter. And they're coming closer. And Jesus says, kill them and eat them. 3 times. And he says, well, Lord, I'm a deacon in the church. I can't do that. This was done 3 times. Then we continue reading. Now, while Peter wondered in himself what this vision he had seen meant. See, he was wondering. I can see his hand gripping his chin. What in the world is Jesus telling me to eat python fillets? Is Jesus telling me to have shrimp cocktail? I mean, I'm a holy, sanctified person. So he's thinking about that. So while he's thinking about it, and he wondered, what does this mean? Because he didn't understand what it meant yet. Then men who had been sent from Cornelius made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. So he's coming out of his trance, and the food is still cooking, and the guys are downstairs. Can you see the whole picture? And he's all, I don't understand. This is some new teaching Jesus is bringing. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on here. And so anyhow, he had enough sense to go with the men to Caesarea. So while he was on his way to Caesarea, he must have had a day and a half to ponder this. Sometimes it's good to ponder something for a while. I always say I don't encourage you to leave your brains at the door when you come to hear me preach. Some people say, oh, I'm just here in the spirit. Well, no, bring your brain with you as well. I like to talk to the whole of you, all of you. And so he's thinking, and some light must have come. He must have had an illumination on the way, because he saw clearly, this vision that I saw is not about food. Because at first you're going to thought it was a food directive. But there's nothing in the story that says that he went out and slaughtered a pig and cooked up some fresh Canadian pea meal bacon. Nothing says that. So he must have, this is not about food. It's about something else. It's about Jesus trying to tell me something, because I'm stuck. I'm stuck in my tradition. I'm stuck in my whole upbringing. I'm stuck in my background. I can't see the gospel because I'm so stuck. I think I have the gospel, but I don't have it because I'm stuck. And he realized, because there's no indication that he changed his diet, so he realized it was about food. And in fact, without this vision, we have reason to believe Simon Peter would never have gone forward. You see, Jesus is talking to him about how he views people, How do you look at people? Do you look at some people as unclean? Do you look at some people as dirty? Do you look at some people as untouchable? Do you look at yourself as better than other people? Are you including other people, or are you excluding other people? How do you feel about people? And so this is something that comes to all of us. How do you feel about people? Just so you know, I've been on a journey my whole life about this, and I say to people very cautiously, I never would want to say that I've given my whole life to the gospel, but I think I can say I've given a pretty good portion of my life, pretty good portion of my strength, certainly most of my strength. Nothing else has got as much strength out of me or mind or thinking or consideration as gospel, as giving the gospel to people for over 40 years. But I would never say, oh, I've given my whole life. No, because I like other things too. I like a little hockey, and I look a little for other things. I am not totally so, don't look at me like that right now, because I know you folks are completely sold out. But I'm going for it. So I have had great opportunities to share the gospel in non-Christian environments. And so for me, for example, when it comes to Muslims, I had an attitude towards Muslims because my mother had books talking about missionaries that were killed by Muslims. So my mother was telling me these books she was reading on a bookshelf, and great missionary stories, how they became martyrs and Muslims killed them. So naturally, I felt a little bit ill-inclined towards them. Don't look at me like that. It's just what I did. So when they were building the mosque in St. Catherine's, where I was living at the time, I didn't like it, right in the center of the city. I've told you the story. And many Christians were saying, we're praying against it. It's going to burn down. Well, it's still standing. So much for their prayers. See, Christians can be so ugly, praying bad things. We have a terrible flood right now in Houston. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But I think if that flood would have been in Minnesota, some people say that's the judgment of God. But because there's so many Christians in Houston, we don't know how to explain it. Yeah. So they're building the mosque. I'm driving by it every day. And one day the Lord says to me, I'm going to arrange, you're going to be invited as a guest speaker in that mosque. Well, you may as well have said that I'm going to be an astronaut and go to the moon and back and Mars. I was thinking that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I heard the Lord say to me, I'm looking up in their building. He says, you're going to be invited as a guest speaker there. I said, I've never heard of a preacher being a guest speaker in the mosque. Never heard that. Ever. But to make the long story short, about 6 months later, I was in the mosque. And I preached Jesus in that mosque. No, I didn't give some watered down message, kumbaya. I was respectful and nice, but I preached Jesus, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. And I've gone around the world doing that. But I had a prejudice. You see what I'm saying? I had a prejudice. But God has shown me not to call any man common or unclean. That's right. God has shown me, like he showed Simon Peter, not to call people unclean, not to consider other people unholy, not to be in that whole realm of judging and assessing various levels of spiritual purity. Now we born-again Christians, we seem to be known for this. Somebody came up to me this week and said they had been talking to a friend here in Canada, and that friend said, why are all you churches, why do you hate the gays and lesbians so much? I said to this man, well, I hope you tell your friend that our church, and here's one preacher, Peter Youngren, he doesn't hate gays and lesbians. I don't look down on any people. I don't consider myself better than anybody. God has shown me, like he showed to Simon Peter, to not call any person common or unclean. I'm not in the business of putting labels on people and categorizing them and try to think that some people are in closer proximity to God and others are kind of down there and we're somehow climbing some eternal ladder. No, 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 no. I want a revolution. I want a gospel revolution in our country when we stop this junk and get back to sharing Jesus to everyone without discrimination. If you don't know Jesus, you say, I want to know this Jesus you're talking about, I'd like you to call and say that you want my book, Salvation, God's Gift to You. We'll send it to you free of charge. So call with that. But right now, watch this.
Myanmar, with a population of 65 million, is made up of over 100 ethnic groups. To many, the country is still known as Burma, named after the largest people group, the Burma people. From 1962 until 2011, this Buddhist nation was ruled by a military junta, and during this time, Peter Youngren visited Burma in secret, training 200 pastors. Since the installation of a civilian government and the release of Aung San Suu Kyi, who spent many years as a political prisoner, there has been an easing of restrictions, with new opportunities, including opportunities for the gospel. In 2016, Peter Youngren and World Impact Ministries returned to Burma in a great gospel festival. Peter and Tina visited the pagodas and met with many of the top Buddhist leaders from the numerous monasteries that dot the countryside. The response was beyond expectation, as tens of thousands of precious Buddhists reached out to receive God's love through Jesus. There were many outstanding healings, and some had visions of Jesus. This became a wonder to the people. Just like previous gospel festivals among Buddhists in Mongolia and Thailand, the gospel showed its power. Now the opportunity has come for Burma's second largest city, Mandalay, where 99.9% of the people are Buddhists. With God's help and yours, this is the time to make gospel history. This trailblazing gospel outreach is only possible through the love and prayers and financial gifts of God's people. A big thank you to all who believe that the gospel is of supreme importance. Thank you for your prayers and your financial gifts. You are needed. Thank you. Please call now, 416-745-1820, to participate in this historical outreach, or give online at peteryoungren.org.
Why does the announcer say thank you to each one who believes that the gospel is of supreme importance? Well, I tell you why our announcer is saying that, because that is what Jesus exemplified. Every one of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, ends with this focus, like this is the final word, this is what you need to remember. Give the gospel to everyone. So that's why our announcer and I say thank you for everyone who sees the supreme importance of this. And I need your help. I need you to be a co-worker with me in this. And let me be a co-worker with you. Let's be partners. Please go online and give right now. Call the number on the screen. Online giving is very safe. Thank you so much. And then don't forget to order the Awakening series. It's so important. And remember, all of this because you're loved.
Thank you. Your participation makes this global gospel ministry possible. To share your prayer request or to help bring the gospel to those who have never heard it, call 416-745-1820. You can give at www.peteryoungren.org or send your gift to World Impact Ministries at P.O. Box 62039 RPO.